And so I have a friend that has a garden. My aunt has a big garden, but I have a friend that has a garden. And so every couple of days, she will bring me lovely garden tomatoes. So some of them are like this, and then some of them are little bitties. Aren't those cute? So I'm very lucky, but if you don't have garden tomatoes, even though I'm calling this a garden tomato, oh, Nina, good. Well, I hope mine is similar to yours. If it's not, you can give us some tips on how you make yours. Anyway, so here we go. You are going to need a pie crust. Now, maybe you're gonna make this from scratch, and some of you do that all the time. Quick, easy. Does not fall into me making a pie crust. So this is just a store-bought pie crust put in a pie shell. You see that? Store-bought pie crust. Now, I have 2 of these, because I'm making 2. Because with this many tomatoes, and when you buy a store-bought pie crust, the box comes with 2. 2. So you really need to make 2 pies. Because what are you going to do with that other pie crust, right? I mean, come on. I know they do this so that when you're making a pie, you've got a bottom crust and a top crust. But I don't make a lot of pies with top crust. So, 2 pies. I love tomatoes too, Joanne. Good morning, Sandy. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You have several pieces, in the yellow. Philip Hurdle, good morning. There's Honey Bunches of Oats. He's on there. Love tomato pie. Janice, you can give us some suggestions and tips as well if I mess this up. How about that? Everybody say good morning, Dr. PP. All right, so we start off with our pie crust, all right? And so you're just gonna put it in the bottom. You don't need to pre-cook the pie crust. We're just, there we go, all raw in there. Now, here's the thing that's gonna take a little time. This deviates from the quick, right? When I say quick, easy, yummy, it definitely is the easy and way to the yummy, but to the quick, maybe not so much. And here's the deal. I cut up, so for 1 pie, I used 4 tomatoes, but the tomatoes were this size, okay? See how they're not huge tomatoes. If you have those big, those big slicer tomatoes, maybe 1 would be okay, or even 2. But because these are this size, I used 4, okay? I like lots of tomato in my pie. There we go. So, that being said, if you have a garden and you have tomatoes, use however many you think. A small to medium tomato, you want 4. Those big slicer tomatoes, 1 or 2, okay? If you have itty tiny like Roma tomatoes, you may need about 6 of those. I want a good layer of tomatoes. Now, what I've done is she actually brought me some of these yummy yellow tomatoes. Look at that. Isn't that a pretty color? So what I did, because I'm making 2 pies, is I did 4 of the red and 4 of these orangish yellow tomatoes. Isn't that pretty? Don't you want to just reach out and grab that? Now, I have these laid out on a paper towel, on a cutting board, right? On a paper towel. You need to slice up your tomatoes and do a good salting on the top. I mean, you don't want a crust on there by any stretch, but go through with your salt and make sure everybody gets a little salt invitation. Then you need to let these set. I would suggest 2 hours. I know, and that really goes against the whole quick thing, doesn't? The only thing I can say is you don't have to do anything to them. You put them on the on the paper towel on a cutting board. You slice them, and quite frankly, I sliced them about 1/4 inch. That's about 1/4 inch. Sliced them about 1/4 inch, put salt on them, and walked away. So 2 hours to let them set, but, we've used a lot of tomatoes, and I don't have to do anything else. Now, my tomatoes have set. So now I'm going to start making my topping. And here's the topping. You ready? We're going to need, let me get the cheese first. We're going to need 1.5 cups of cheese. 1.5 cups of cheese. Now, I'm going to put the recipe, you know how I always do. That being said, I'm making 2 pies. Look, I'm even going to use a measuring cup. Kind of, but. So I'm going to double this and use 3 cups, okay? Because remember, pie crusts come in 2s. Might as well do 2. Give 1 to your neighbor, or maybe you just eat it. I think this is a great pie for summers, not only to use up garden tomatoes, but it's very light. It's a good lunch. Have this. It may not be quick, but sure worth the time. I know. Okay, so a cup and a half if you're making one, 3 if you're not. This is just, and I always use the finely shredded cheese. This is just a mix, doesn't matter. Cheddar, Mexican mix, whatever you got in your pantry. Sharp, there you go. Now, we're gonna need, if you're making one pie, you're gonna need a half a cup of mayo. I'm making 2, so I'm gonna use a whole cup of mayo. I'm not measuring. I mean, I know what a cup of mayo looks like, right? There we go, that's a cup of mayo. So bad, aren't I? But I don't like putting gross, this is kind of icky, because Philip is the mayo person. I'm the whip person. But I think when you're making recipes, if things call for mayo, you ought to use the mayo. When I've made things 80,000 times and it's really, it's not cooked and I need to taste it, I use whip. Or if I'm trying to be a good wife, that is rare, isn't it? But if I'm trying to be a good wife, then I will do half mayo, half whip. And then I decide that everybody gets a little bit of happiness. Okay, I just mixed that together. I really didn't need this big old bowl, but I used it anyway. Now, to this, I'm going to add a teaspoon. Do I have a teaspoon thing? I do not, so there you go. A teaspoon of Italian blend seasonings and a teaspoon of either garlic powder or granulated garlic, okay? There you go. Now, I'm stirring that in, la 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 la, and that's my mixture. Just gonna make sure that it's all mixed together. Go, go, go. Go, go, Power Rangers. Okay, all mixed together. There we go. Now, you ready? We take our pie crust. There we go. It's fit in here. And now, does everybody like tomatoes? Is anybody watching going, don't like tomatoes? I have a friend and she really likes tomatoes, but her husband doesn't. And so she was like, well, I can't make that. And I'm thinking, make the darn pie. You can have it for lunch every day. He doesn't have to eat it. Anyway, so just for pretty, I'm gonna go all the way around and I'm gonna kind of do every other, see how I've got the green or the orange and the red tomatoes all the way around. Put that in there. Look how pretty. Look how pretty. If you don't have the orange tomatoes, that is certainly fine. I mean, it's a gift for me when she brought them in. I was like, oh, yes. Now, you could just do the one layer. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and take this one and do the layer across this so that I ensure that everybody's got enough tomatoes, okay? Because I need, making 2 pies, you don't want to say, my pie has plenty of tomatoes. I don't know what your pie has, right? Okay, so this one has tomatoes in this one needs a little bitty one right there. Okay, so this has all of them in there. So all I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna take the leftover tomatoes and I'm going to fill in any places that I can see the crust on the bottom, okay? No such thing as too many tomatoes, okay? One there and one there. Okay, so now I've got, no, I want that one over there. Now I've got the tomatoes in the bottom. I'm gonna put something on the top of the tomatoes. Good morning. You gotta say hello. Hey, Susan, don't lurk, because I see you lurkers. Sandy, Janet, Maddie, I see you lurking. Okay, the next thing we're gonna put on top is a green onion. Now I'm doing 2, so I'm gonna do 2 green onions. Boy, the green onions were getting a little icky in my crisper, so I had to peel off quite a bit. I'm gonna chop off the ends there, and then, now, it depends. If you really love green onions, you certainly can chop these bigger. I love green onions, but I don't want a big wad of green onion in my mouth. So we're gonna chop up both the white part and the green part to go on this, okay? So I'm just gonna do, now, do I call it a mince? No, because a mince is really, really fine. So, but I'm gonna call this a very thin dice, if you will, okay? La la. I know I normally have everything chopped up. And so I'm just dumping, which is my favorite thing. But I'm dicing in front of you today. Okay, so that's 2 green onions. I'm gonna take half of that and spread it. Ugh. There's our tomato pie. I'm gonna put half of it and spread it across this one. Oh, yummy. Look, it's like a party, I tell you. And then the other half, over this one, okay? Green onions. It makes me think, Green Acres is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Okay, now we need one other thing on top of this before we put our mixture, and that is basil. Now, I'm lucky enough that I have a large basil plant outside. I probably have about maybe 16 of these good sized leaves. So if you're doing one pie, maybe about 8 or 10 leaves of fresh basil. You can get it at the grocery store, right? Remember that you want to take them, lay them flat, roll them kind of like you're rolling like a cigar shape, so they're round like this. And then we're gonna take our knife, and just like we did the green onion, we're gonna run that through our basil. So we have beautiful little ribbons of basil. Because you don't wanna get a big old basil leaf. Well, I don't, so. All right, beautiful basil leaves. Look how pretty. All right, so I'm gonna take my pie again. I'm gonna take half my basil, and I'm gonna sprinkle the fresh basil on top of those tomatoes. Come on, tell me you're just not drooling just yet, right? All right, I'm gonna take the rest of my basil and dribble that on top of the other pie. Okay, is that all I need for my cooking sheet? Yes. All right, so I don't need you anymore. Go away, go away. All right, now I have my 2 pies. The only other thing I'm gonna do right now, and this isn't in most recipes, I'm sure. Hey, Janet, hi, Diane, is I'm gonna sprinkle a little pepper. You know me, I just like salt and pepper on tomatoes. I'm sure I've told you before, but when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, this is what I craved all the time, was fresh tomatoes. They could not be from the grocery store. They had to be from like a farmer's market or a fruit stand or something like that. And so everybody we knew, you know, I'm big fat pregnant, and everybody knew that that's what I craved. And so people would stop by with bags of tomatoes, and I would sit with the salt shaker. I would sit in the recliner with the tomatoes and the salt shaker and eat it like an apple. I'm surprised I didn't blow up like the Goodyear blimp. Good morning, Sherilyn. All right, so now we have our pie crust. We have our tomatoes that we have sliced 1/4 inch, salted, and let set on a paper towel to kind of drain some of that liquid off for 2 hours. We have put our tomatoes in the bottom. We have sliced up a green onion, very thin, put that on top. About 10 basil leaves, very fine. We put that on there, and then I put a little bit of pepper. Now the topping goes. Okay, so remember in our topping, we just had a 1.5 cups of cheese, shredded cheddar cheese, a 1/2 cup of mayo, and Italian herbs, you know, like the Italian blend. We use that a lot, right, at Cindy's Kitchen. And some garlic powder or granulated garlic. Okay, I'm just pushing this in the bottom just so I can do so I'm just pushing in the bottom so I can draw a line in the middle so I know what's half. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drop this on in little plops. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Little plops, but I want it to be easier to spread, and I don't want my basil and my green onions just to go everywhere. It may still happen, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, so now, maybe I'll use my knife. That might be better. Let me use my knife. Even though this is not a spreading knife, it's a cutting knife. All right, so now I'm gonna spread this cheese, mayo, spice mixture evenly all across my tomatoes. I'm interested, Janice and somebody else, Thai basil is also good. Yes, Nina. Nina, and let's see, you do that now. Okay, so Sharon and Nina and, who else was it? Diane. No, not Diane. I can't remember who else said. Those of you who make tomato pie, have I done it the way you make it, or do you make it a little differently? Give us Give us a shout out. I like when people say, I make that, but I make it a little different. Because you know, I always want you to have some alternatives. I don't want you to say, well, that looks good, but I don't like X. And so then you don't make it. Because a lot of times, if you don't have X, you certainly could use something else that you do like, right? Okay, I'm gonna steal just a little bit more of this. Because I just want I want every tomato to have a yummy bit of cheese and stuff on top. Okay. So there we go. Ta and da. See it? That's gonna go in the oven. Preheat your oven 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, when it's done, remember this is cheese and mayo, okay? So when it's done, here's my suggestion to you. Don't cut into it immediately. Just like with any kind of pie or things that you bake, you need to let it set up just for a bit, okay? So let it set for 10 or 15 minutes before you, it tastes good, but it's mayo, you know. It tastes better if it was whip. All right, I'll spread that one out in just a bit. And that goes in the oven. And poof, there you go, tomato pie. What do you think? What do you think? You like tomato pie? Okay. You use oregano and basil. Okay, see, Janice, there you go. We could use oregano. I've never made it, never had it. Love them with just salt. Love them just like that. Yep, try this. Pretty close, different measurements. Can't be anything but this. Good, okay. The next thing we're gonna make is weird. Weird. But I saw it. There is a, I don't know if she's on YouTube or on, I don't know where I see her, but there's a girl that does this little cooking thing, and it's called Emmy Made. And I think she lives in Japan. I'm not certain. But anyway, her name is Emmy Made. And she made this, and I was like rolling my eyes going, ugh, really? Oh. So then I had to make it. I had some issues. So I made it a couple of times, and now you're gonna get the wisdom, the benefit of my wisdom. This is a South African dessert, and there it is called a cremora tart. Cremora is a brand of coffee creamer, powdered coffee creamer that is made by Nestle. Nestle is the same company that makes Coffee Mate here in the United States. You don't really find cremora in the United States. Now, the cremora they use in South Africa to make this is just kind of a plain. What if you baked the crust and then assembled? I don't think I could do cooked sliced tomatoes. Oh, so good, so good. Well, give it a shot, Brett. You never know. Okay, hi Janice. Good morning, Melinda. Anyway, so coffee creamer. I did hazelnut. Hazelnut is my favorite. I love hazelnut coffee creamer. And so the first one I did, I'm gonna show you because you know what? This is not the cooking channel. I have fails, and the fails need to be documented because you need to know if you do something, what it is, right? So, here's the fail, okay? This is the fail, and I'm gonna tell you why it's a fail. Because if you slice it, it doesn't come out all, you know, it's like it never set up. It is, oh my gosh. It is one of the tastiest things you will ever eat. So good. But, you know, now it's a pudding. It's not really a tart. That being said, I'm gonna put this back in the freezer because we're eating this. We are eating this. I don't care if it looks pretty or not. It tastes awesome. So, back in here, I've done some research. Now I think I got it down. The first thing you want to do, now this is usually done as a tart, and they use a springform pan. You know, a springform pan is where it has the metal around and you fill it all up, and then once it's done, you click and the sides come off, and you have this beautiful thing that you can see the sides. I don't own a springform pan. I know you're going, what? Hi from Nigeria. There's a sound going, Jessica. Sorry. We have, she walked away, and so her phone picked me up. Anyway, hello from Nigeria. Good to see you. So the traditional South African cremora tart starts with something for a crust called a tennis biscuit. Now remember that everybody on the other side of the pond the reason they have to call biscuits scones is because they call cookies biscuits. It's all screwed up if you go across the pond. That being said, it's a coconut flavored cookie is what it is. A coconut flavored cookie. Well, of course, no tennis biscuits that I could find anywhere. That being said, I think that you have several options. The first being, if you happen to find in your grocery store like a plain cookie that was coconut flavored, you certainly could use that. Or, like the first time, I just used graham crackers. If you have graham crackers, obviously you can crumble those up. Or if you don't have these, but you buy the thing of crumbs, graham cracker crumbs, you make your own graham cracker crust, and that's just 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs, or however you get your crumbs, half a cup of sugar, and a 1/4 cup of melted butter. Okay, so that's how you get your crust one way or another. What I did on the very first one was I went ahead and just did a graham cracker crust, but I put a 1/4 teaspoon of coconut flavored extract in the crumbs before I pressed it down. And interestingly, Philip said, wow, there's a big coconut flavor in this from just like a little bit in the crust. So that was interesting. This one I'm doing a little different, okay? And because I just wanted to show you there are all kinds of options. You can simply buy a pre-made graham cracker crust and be done with the whole thing. Or you can make your own. This is a combination of, we found these, this was in the international aisle by the Japanese food. These are called honey almond cookies. Because I was like, almond, I love almond. So these are honey almond cookies. But for this package, it wasn't enough to do a crust. So I did what was here, and then I just made up the difference with the graham cracker crumbs. Again, use what you got, okay? So, but you need, if you're making your own, 2 cups of crumbs of whatever kind of cookie you're using, and a 1/4 stick of melted butter. Mix that all together and then press it in whatever your pan is. Again, I don't own a springform pan. Sad Cindy. And the first one I did was in my pie plate. I did 2 tomato tarts in pie plates. And I know I own a ton of Polish pottery, but that's 3 Polish pottery pie plates. At this point, we have to move to a different shape. So this one is, I don't know, 6 by 8. It's not huge. So, but I figure it's about the same circumference, right? You know, inside square footage as the pie plate's gonna be. So about a 6 by 8. You use a springform pan or use a pie plate, either one. All right, so after you've pressed that in, go ahead and stick that in the refrigerator while you make your other stuff. Now, you ready to make the other stuff? Here we go. I put my bowl, now you know I do Polish pottery. I can't help myself. I cannot help myself. But Polish pottery retains either heat or cold really well. And the problem I think that I had, it wouldn't set up. And I did there's like 8 different recipes out there with different measurements and I tried them all. What I think is there was too much humidity. I mean, it's just like raining all the time in Houston, and I think there was just too much humidity in the air. So what I've done is I've decreased the liquid just a bit, and to help things stiffen up, I have put my bowl. Now, if you have a glass bowl or a metal bowl, whatever, you can put that in the freezer too. I just like the Polish pottery, like I said, it retains the cold really well, okay? So to our bowl, our cold bowl, we are gonna add, where's my, oh, there we go. Nestle coffee creamer. Now you don't have to use this brand. You can use any kind of powdered coffee creamer you got, okay? And we're gonna need 2 cups. What did I put this in? Oh, cheese. Okay, we're good. Okay. Oh, and I'm using the French vanilla one this time. I did the hazelnut just because it was my favorite, and oh, so good. You could use plain, but come on, let's be adventuresome. Okay, so there's 1 cup. I know you're going, really? That just doesn't look right. Oh, and I left my water over there. Hold on, I'll go get my water in just a second. 2 cups. 2 cups of powdered coffee creamer. Rolling your eyes at me right now. Anybody had this or heard of this? Tell me, yes or no, I've heard of it. I know, coffee creamer. I have to go get my water. Hold on 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay. Here's the deal. We need 3/4 cup, 3/4 of a cup of ice cold water. So I have the water and I've just put ice in it, okay? So I've let it sit there because we need our bowl cold and we need our water cold, okay? So 3/4 of a cup. I don't want the ice in there, so I'm gonna put my hands over that. Okay, 3/4 of a cup. Now get your blender. You can use a whisk. I did this, but I think the blender's good. Oh, look, puffs of powder. Woo! La 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 la, round the bowl we go. Several of you have asked, you know, that Polish pottery, can you use a mixer in it? Yep. Even the small bowls? Yep. You put Polish pottery in the freezer? Yup. Okay, dishwasher, microwave, all that kind of stuff. All right, so what we're doing is we're whipping this enough. You're gonna see it start to get a little thicker. Once you start to see bubbles, there we go. I got bubbles. So now I'm gonna stop. Now we're gonna add in more weird ingredients. The first weird ingredient is a 1/2 cup of lemon juice. Lemon juice. Now you can use the lemon juice out of here or you can squeeze your lemons. It doesn't matter. 1/2 cup of lemon juice. I know, you're freaking out, aren't you? And then the last ingredient, weird, so weird. The last ingredient is a can. Usually I take the lids off of everything. A can, I need a spatula, of sweetened condensed milk, okay? So I'm gonna drop that in there. I know, so weird, so weird. Okay, and I'm wondering, I looked for the history of this, like, who said, let's do it this way? Who said that? And you know, the only thing, I even talked to some of my friends that used to live in South Africa. Nobody could tell me. And so all I can guess is maybe there was a refrigeration issue, you know, with getting like cream cheese or milk, or it was just a shortage. You know, I don't know the answer. All right, let's take our mixer and go back in. Somebody told me that there's a version of this called prison pie. I guess they use it in the prison. I don't know. Who knows? But we're not calling it that because that sounds yucky. Okay, again, we're gonna mix this. We want it to thicken up. It's cold, the bowl is cold, the water is cold, and we wanna put enough air in here to thicken it up. Oh, so pretty. Again, we're looking for the thickness and we will look for bubbles because we're putting lots of air in here. Nobody's heard of it. Nobody's heard of it. Yes, Janet. I know. I called Janet actually, and her husband Ron lived in South Africa for a while, and I actually called her and talked to her. She had not had this. Okay. But she had had something called a milk tart. Oh my gosh, so good. Okay. And such a different flavor just between the French vanilla and the hazelnut creamer. Use any one. So good. Now, we're going to take our crust, whatever crumbs you made it out of. Almond cookies, coconut cookies, graham crackers, whatever you got. And then we're going to pour this in there. Oh, look, see how thick, how much thicker it is? Oh, look at that. Okay, spatula. Spatula. Although I could lick the bowl. I think that's one of the best parts of cooking is getting to lick the bowl, lick the spatula, lick the spoon, lick your fingers. That's like my favorite part of cooking. And so then, unfortunately though, if you're making a big meal and you do that throughout the tasting, or the cooking process, which I do, I tend to taste along the way because I want to see if something needs something more, or, whatever. Okay, we're just gonna spread this out. Spread it out. It's like glass. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna show you, hold on. Oh, I made a mess. Okay, that's it. Oh. Oh my gosh. Now, you're gonna look at this and say cheesecake. You see how pretty? If the light hits it, it just looks like glass. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like glass. It's so pretty. It tastes so good. But you're gonna look at it. Oh, you couldn't get powdered creamer there. It could be. You're gonna think cheesecake. And I know that it kind of looks like that, right? Graham cracker crust, it's the right color. But I promise you it looks nothing like cheesecake, and the texture is nothing like cheesecake. It's more like a cream pie, but with this, the lemon, and then the French vanilla or the hazelnut creamer, and then it follows up with whatever flavor of cookie you've used for the crust, right? So the time I put the coconut in there, or almonds, or whatever. So see how adventuresome you can be with the Tart. Okay, so I'm putting that in the refrigerator. So good. All right, now, I need a favor. Could I ask you a favor? And it doesn't matter if you're watching now or watching later. You all know that the reason I started this whole cooking show, Cindy's Kitchen, was because at the time, the coronavirus came out, and at that time, all the ICU doctors, and of course I have an immune problem, an immune deficiency, and my husband is the director of an ICU, and he didn't want to give it to me. And so he and another doctor moved into a townhouse, and for 86 days, he lived over there, and Cindy's Kitchen and you guys, like my little Cindy's Kitchen family, got me through those 86 days. I mean, you really did. Because I had to think about what I was gonna cook and make ingredient lists and taste test. And if you've never made anything, sometimes I make it 2 or 3 times just to taste it and go, nah, I don't like that, maybe. So, you're trying new recipes, you got food everywhere. But you guys saved me because I really had to concentrate on food and talking to you and learning things about how to do a Facebook Live and all of that. And your kind comments and, tuning into watch and all that, really, it touched my heart, and you got me through the 86 days. Today, it is with a very heavy heart that I ask for your prayers again, my Cindy's Kitchen family. I try not to engage in social media battles between people who think the coronavirus doesn't exist and it's a political hoax, because I'm just not going to engage in any of that. My husband actually works in an ICU, so, I'm going to take fact over That being said, all of the ICUs in Houston are now at capacity. Both regular, non-COVID, and the COVID sides, or the COVID floors. In fact, at my husband's hospital, they have, for the last 3 or 4 days, they've had COVID patients in other places because there was no room, waiting for beds. Even here in Houston, you may have seen on the news that Texas Children's Hospital, that normally only admits children, is now admitting adult patients because all of the ICUs are at full capacity. That being said, that was hard enough. That's a hard enough burden because now he's having to work extra hard. We found out in the last 2 days that one of our dear friends, who's a nurse practitioner, he's tested positive for coronavirus and he's at home ill. And yesterday we found out that one of our ICU doctors has tested positive and he's home ill. What that means is Philip has probably been exposed directly by being around these two. And you have a few days. Once you've had direct exposure, you're not really contagious at that moment. It takes a few days for it to latch in and take root. That being said, he's moving back to the townhouse this evening. because in the next couple of days, we'll see. So he's moving back out. And of course, now we're short-staffed. We're very short-staffed in the ICU at our particular hospital. And that means all of our doctors who were working double shifts are now working almost triple shifts. So this is gonna be a really rough time, not just for my family and my husband, but for all of the healthcare workers in the Houston area. And so I ask for your prayers, your good thoughts. And again, I'm pushing through with Cindy's Kitchen because you guys are keeping me sane, and I love you guys, and I appreciate your presence. I appreciate your kind words, your thoughts, and your prayers. So that being said, just the recap today, we made a lovely tomato tart and a funky, weird coffee creamer tart. What? Tomato pie and coffee creamer tart, but they really taste good. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but please give it a try. Be adventuresome. You haven't really lost anything if you say, ugh, I don't like that. So give it a try. I think you'll like it. Yeah, Baylor downtown in Dallas is full too. I know. So big thoughts and prayers, all of you guys, for all of our healthcare workers here in Texas. That being said, we'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. From my kitchen to yours, I thank you for your support, your love, and your hugs and your prayers. I hope your kitchen is filled with the lovely smells of garden tomatoes and this weird thing called the coffee creamer tart. Love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow at 11. Bye-bye.